Remember when EdTech sounded exciting and innovative and we all thought it was going to improve education? Yeah, me neither. You see, the thing about most of these EdTech companies that we're going to look at today is that they're just soulless corporations in it for the money without a human being ever even appearing on their platform. They are, in a word, faceless. Well, all except for one. So that's where we're going to start on our evil EdTech journey. Keep watching this video to the end, and I'll reveal which EdTech platform is, in my humble opinion, the worst of all time. Let's get into it. Extra Math. Did a smiling guy in a red shirt ever threaten to email your mum because you got your sums wrong? Well, I hadn't heard of this either until I discovered Extra Math. You see, I'm British. My maths education was CGP revision guides with the smug little characters on the cover. These days, British kids get things like times table rock stars and mathletics, which we'll get onto later. Anyway, no one ever threatened to email my parents because I was slow on my 7 times table. So when I found out that there was an American website that did exactly that, I was morbidly fascinated. An app that actually says to children who get the answers wrong,
don't type in wrong answers on purpose. If you keep doing it, I will send the note to your teacher or parent letting them know.
Did you know parents said it gave their children anxiety, depression, and a hatred of maths they never had before? And here's the weird part. That guy in the red shirt, he doesn't look the same anymore. When you came back after a break, old Mr. C said,
don't make me wait so long to see you again, okay?
Whereas new Mr. C says,
hello again. I appreciate how you keep coming back to exercise your math brain.
They even added a game that you can play to up-level the student experience. Yes, Extra Math has quietly changed. But before we get on to what it's become, you first need to understand what it was, because it was bad. Part 1. Discovering the horror. I found Extra Math the way you find most horrible things, on the internet. A creator called Shrink made a video called Extra Math Can't Be Legal, where he talked about how the whole system builds this connection between maths and anxiety that sticks with you long after you leave school. I then stumbled on a review that stopped me in my tracks. Excuse me, Satan, please look after the heavens while I go down to earth to get rid of this horror. That's a hell of an opening for a maths website review. The reviewer went on. This website is literally the most brain-dead math website I've ever seen. Even iReady is more fun than this crap. The website has this annoying guy whose head looks like a rotten egg who wants to teach you math. They give you about 0.5 milliseconds to answer a question and then they judge it. It is so easy to misclick and the speed of it is way too fast. A rotten egg-headed bloke barking rapid-fire sums at kids? I had to know more. Part 2. Mr. C, the snitch in the red shirt. This cheerful-looking instructor, known to many simply as Mr. C, is the face of Extra Math, and he looks friendly enough. But to basically every child who's used this thing, he's the villain. His real name is Christopher Roberts. He's been the face of Extra Math since 2012, and kids were terrified of him. One 5th grader wrote, Mr. C made me scared, and I'm 10. He gave me a look when I got questions wrong, and he's a bot. Another kid went further. He looks like he went to this severe car crash, and his eyes moved in the crash. He has a weird smile. He is the creepiest thing ever. Bit harsh on the man, but you get the picture. And when you actually listen to what Mr. C says in the videos, it's a lot. If you hadn't logged on for a while, he'd say,
welcome back to Extra Math. I haven't seen you in a long time, and I missed you. Don't make me wait so long to see you again, okay?
Yes, that's what he really says to a child who hasn't done their maths homework. Mr. C pops up and goes in a calm voice,
it appears that you are typing in wrong answers on purpose again. I sent a note in email to your teacher and parent letting them know.
Yes, the website is basically saying, I'm telling on you. But there's actually the third stage. First, he tells you he knows you'd rather be doing something else.
I'm sure you'd rather be doing something else right now than taking a math quiz.
He builds up to it.
But it is really important for you to learn these math facts. You will use them many times in the rest of your math classes and for the rest of your life. So please, don't type in wrong answers on purpose. If you keep doing it, I will send the note to your teacher or parent letting them know.
When I first heard this, I nearly spat out my tea. Is this for real? And then, after he's actually sent the email, he hits you with,
I believe that you can do this, but you are going to have to do your part.
He's just grassed you up to your mum and then told you to try harder. Smash like if Mr. C ever snitched on you. Seriously though, I understand why the program might include a mechanism to prevent kids from just spamming wrong answers to game the system. But the execution? Oh boy. Threatening to email someone's parents because they got the sums wrong is absolutely mental. It's the digital equivalent of a teacher looming over your shoulder with a phone in hand, ready to dial up your mum the second you put a toe out of line. In Britain, we've had our share of stern teachers, don't get me wrong, but if any software tried to snitch on me like that, I'd probably fling my nearest textbook at it. The whole Mr. C meme is honestly much more therapy than it is comedy. It's a load of 20-somethings sitting around going, remember the bald man who threatened to email your mum because you got 7 times 8 wrong, and bonding over it. Mr. C has also got a Know Your Meme page. Someone made him into a Pokemon card with 1,000,000 HP. Mr. C is basically the Duolingo owl of maths, an education mascot turned into a super villain. Except Duolingo is in on the joke, and Mr. C never was. But they replaced him. And new Mr. C? He says stuff like this.
If you get stuck or make a mistake, don't worry. I'll show you the answer and then you can type it in. Mistakes are a natural part of learning and growing.
We'll get into what changed. But first, Mr. C was only part of the problem. Part 3. Why everyone hates it. The time drills were brutal. Extra Math's whole thing is rapid fire questions to build fluency, but originally, kids had to answer each basic maths fact in under 3 seconds. They later bumped it to 6 seconds in some modes, but even that wasn't enough. One parent vented that the program's uncompromising 6-second questions often didn't even register when her daughter answered in time, failing to give credit and forcing endless repetition. I hate this program and don't recommend it at all for successful learning, she concluded. One reviewer noted with exasperation that even paper is better. It does not let you pause to drink water. Kids were scared to take a sip of water because the clock was still going. The crazy thing is, half the time it wasn't even testing maths. Extra Math accepted whatever you typed first, and that was it. If your finger slipped and you hit the number wrong, tough. It counted as a wrong answer and your progress was gone. There was no backspace, you couldn't correct yourself. One teacher tried it herself and said, as I took the practice tests, I made several mistakes simply by pressing the wrong key on the keyboards. If students lacked their keyboarding skills, this program could see more of a test of their ability to find the numbers on the keyboards rather than their math fact automaticity. So it's not a maths test, it's a typing test. And some parents got so fed up, they started typing the answers for their kids. As one mum said, I started typing for my girls as they said the answer aloud, and we were still finding that if you missed one or didn't beat the teacher on one, they wouldn't let you move on. The mum was literally sitting there doing the typing, and they still couldn't get through it. And here's my favourite bit. Extra Math's own FAQ actually recommends this. Their official advice is to have an adult type on the child's behalf. If your solution is get a grown-up to press the buttons because children physically can't use your app, then your app is broken. Then there was the complete absence of fun. Unlike modern educational games which sugarcoat learning with points or mini games, Extra Math was austerity in the extreme. Just you, the numbers, and Mr. C's face. No rewards or motivational features of any kind. One kid dryly observed that literally just do one multiplication problem at home and you will have already gained more knowledge than Extra Math gave you. And this is what gets me, because other platforms cracked this problem years ago. Take Times Table Rockstars, TTRS, which is used in over 80% of English primary schools. It drills similar content to Extra Math. Multiplication facts up to 12 times 12, time questions, the maths is very similar. But TTRS lets kids create Rockstar avatars, compete against classmates in live battles, and has a timer-free mode for anxious kids. The result? Children voluntarily queue up at break time to play it. The creator, a London maths teacher called Bruno Reddy, got an OBE for services to education. Meanwhile, Extra Maths creator got called Satan in a review. One of them understood that children are human beings with emotions, put a bald man in it, and then wondered why everyone was crying. Or look at Mathletics, which we also had in some British schools. It's got a real-time multiplayer mode, where you race against other kids from anywhere in the world. An annual World Maths Day, with over 5 million students competing. Avatar customization. Certificates handed out in assemblies. Teachers on EdTech Impact gave it 4.7 out of 5 and said kids actually enjoy maths now. That sentence alone should make Extra Math developers wins. Because the damning thing about extra math isn't that time math practice is inherently bad. TTS proves it isn't. The damning thing is that extra math looked at the same problem every other platform was facing. How do you get children to practice their math facts? And decided the answer was a stopwatch, a threat to email their parents, and absolutely nothing else. And the feedback was relentlessly negative. A single typo counted as a full mistake. Get one wrong and you'd be presented that same question again later until you answer fast enough. An endless loop until you are perfect. Automated drill sergeant, basically. Reviews describe kids crying, raging, or shutting down from the pressure. On one review site, it has 1.4 stars out of 5 from 46 reviews, with 90% of reviewers giving it the lowest rating. One review hit the nail on the head. The reason I hate this program is because it causes you a lot more stress and anxiety. I tried it, it's bad. And if you have this, I feel bad for you. So teachers, please discontinue this program from use. That plea, please discontinue this, speaks volumes. Extra Math managed to make children literally beg their teachers to stop using a free maths resource, which is quite sad when you really think about it. Stressful and detrimental, that's the consensus. There's a dark humor that's developed around hating extra math, a sort of cathartic bonding for those who survived it. Part 4. Tales of traumatized children. So, what was it actually doing to kids? Well, I went looking for stories, and I found hundreds of them. There's a Change.org petition called Let's Stop Extra Math. Over 763 signatures, and one high school student on there wrote, "Extra math made me cry multiple times due to being too stressful. I have ADHD, and the fast-paced thinking I was forced to do in first grade exceeds what I can now even do as a high schooler. A teenager still can't handle what they were made to do at 6 years old." A parent on Common Sense Media said, "I have had my two sons use this program for school, one in second grade and the other in third grade. Both are intelligent and good at math. With this program, the timer causes such anxiety that they cannot complete simple addition problems. There are tears throughout each and every session of extra math. Two kids, both good at maths, crying every time they used it." A grandparent on Common Sense Media wrote, "My grandchildren have to do this for homework every night, and it makes them cut out on the family bonding time we plan to do with them. They miss out on our loving cuddles. Every night, they cry themselves to sleep because of this website. If I could say 0 stars, I would. I don't recommend this website unless you want your children to be traumatized and never the same again. Do not use." Children crying themselves to sleep over maths homework? Something ain't right. One third grader on a review site wrote, "Once every day we have to do extra math, but never have I played such a bad learning game. If you join me, maybe we can take this business down." Another kid simply said, "This game tortures me." The word torture comes up a lot, in fact. And the worst one I found. A parent wrote, "My third grader come home sobbing after his teacher looked at his data and called him stupid and an idiot after he answered the questions up to 7 seconds after. Speed in math is not everything. A teacher used extra math data to call a child stupid. I don't even know what to say to that. Except that the teacher sounds like an actual demon." Another parent wrote, "My daughter loved math before having to use this app for school. Now she doesn't even want to do her math homework, which she used to enjoy. I pray the makers of this program do not actually have children. Trust me, random parent reviewer, they don't." For a program supposedly designed to help children, Extra Math seems to have achieved the exact opposite for many, installing a pure hatred for maths. Let me know in the comments if Extra Math caused you trauma. I want to hear your stories. Maybe we can kind of turn into a therapy session in that comment section below. Part 5. Teachers versus extra math. If you're a teacher and half your class is in tears every time you open extra math, you're gonna start questioning whether it's worth it. Many educators report that extra math's approach is simply not healthy for kids learning. One exasperated teacher wrote, "This simply goes way too fast for my students, and I think that extra math shouldn't exist. There are stories of teachers who assigned extra math only to watch their pupils melt down. And there's a bigger question underneath all of this. Whether drilling maths facts under time pressure is even pedagogically sound. Many teachers argue it's not. It prioritizes speed over understanding and can even foster a pure hatred of maths. A child who cries over extra math is not going to become the next Newton. More likely, they'll do anything to avoid maths in the future." One Reddit comment from a teacher did mention having a few students who found success with extra maths routine, acknowledging, "Some of my students have gained fluency and is free to use." But even if it works for some, teachers are split. Is it worth the emotional cost? Increasingly, the answer seems to be no. The Reddit thread was literally titled, "Should extra math be banned?" Most of the comments said yes. In my own British schooling experience, we certainly had timed multiplication tests on paper, and they were nerve-wracking enough. We had CGP books that made you feel a bit thick if you got things wrong, but at least they had jokes in the margins. We never had an automated head chastising us and ratting us out via email. I suspect that if extra math had been introduced at my school, the teachers would have tossed it out after the first panic attack it almost inevitably induced. Part 6. So, they changed it. After years of kids crying and review sites reading like crime scene reports, extra math actually did something about it. Firstly, they got rid of the real Mr. C. In October 2023, extra math turned the old live-action Mr. C, the balding teacher in a red shirt, into a friendly 2D cartoon coach. The official blog says that the new Mr. C is not just a static mascot, but a math coach that encourages each student to progress. But it wasn't just a new coat of paint on Mr. C. They went after the stuff that actually made kids miserable. So, the old smiley faces that turn green or stay grey, depending on how fast you were, gone. They added a little countdown before each activity starts, so you're not just chucked straight into it. And if a kid stops responding mid-session, like they freeze up or panic, it pauses now, instead of just timing them out. That reviewer, who said even paper lets you pause to drink water, would be pleased. In January 2025, they added a 12-second timer option. 12 seconds, that's 4 times longer than the original 3. If you're a kid who needs a moment to think, that's massive. The old 3-second mode is still there for the kids who are good at it, but there's actually room to breathe. Extra Math says the changes reduce frustration and build math confidence, and yeah, I'd hope so. A 5th grader summed it up. Extra Math has helped me so much this past year. This program makes it fun and easy to stay on track, which is a long way from "this game tortures me." Furthermore, Executive Director Roy King wrote something in a blog post that I think is worth hearing. Our original script placed an emphasis on speed, but we now highlight the importance of progress. It's not an apology, but after years of saying nothing while kids cried at their desks, I'll take it. And you can hear it in the actual clips. Old Mr. C opened with,
"I'm going to help you get better and faster at math." You want to be better and faster at math, don't you?
New Mr. C opens with,
I'm Mr. C, your math coach, ready to help you exercise your math brain.
It's like a completely different website. Mind you, the timer still can't actually be turned off. As Extra Math's own FAQ says, the timer can't be turned off because Extra Math uses a timed spaced repetition system to build math fact fluency. So you can hide the timer. You can slow it down to 12 seconds. But every timer you give is still being timed in the background, and that's still what drives your progress. The clock's still there, you just can't see it. And then, in June 2025, they added a game mode called Awakening. Finish your daily drill and you get to play actual maths games with avatar rewards. Teachers can switch it on or off. It's not much, but it's something. There's finally a reason to get beyond the drill, rather than the threat of or else. Parents are saying it works, even with kids who used to refuse. And here's what's interesting. People are actually saying nice things about it now. A 1st grade teacher on TikTok in May 2025 said, "If you're looking for a free, low prep way to help your students master math facts, Extra Math it is. My kids love trying to beat their streaks, earn celebration balloons, and work towards certificates." A student on Trustpilot in January 2026 wrote, "I love Extra Math. It is so much fun, more fun than IXL, which sucks, but Extra Math is so fun, I would play it every day if I could. It makes everything so much more fun. It helps me learn without raging or wanting to throw my Chromebook. I love Extra Math." Although, I think the student needs to work on their grammar, as they've clearly never heard of a full stop. But here's the thing I noticed whilst doing this research. Almost nobody is actually talking about the changes specifically. Nobody's going, "Oh, the new timer is brilliant," or "The Awakening game mode saved my classroom." People are just using it and not hating it anymore. The Brightly review site noticed the same thing and wrote, "After many complaints about the time pressure during practice, the developers listened and fixed it. After the latest update, the time limits can be turned off." But that's a review site. Actual parents and kids? Silence. Which is either the best sign possible, nobody complains when something works, or it means Extra Math's audience has already moved on and the people using it now never knew how bad it really was. Even the Mr. C grumbles are dying down a bit. One teen who hadn't used extra math since childhood shouted, "What happened to Mr. C?" at the new cartoon coach. Fair enough, but they kept the look of the original bloke in the cartoon version, which is a weird choice. If the man traumatized a generation, maybe don't keep his face. Seriously though, is any of this enough? They've made the timer longer. They've turned the scary man into a cartoon. They've even bolted on some games. But can you actually fix something that made so many kids cry just from changing the settings? The end of extra math? The changes are real. The longer timers, the accessibility features, the game mode, the cartoon Mr. C. Someone at Extra Math was clearly listening, and I don't want to pretend that doesn't count for something. But here's what I keep coming back to. Extra Math made millions of kids associate maths with panic. It made them cry at their desks. That happened. No software update undoes that. So, should Extra Math be forgiven? Honestly, I don't know. I'm just a Brit who had CGP books and pencil and paper tests. The people who get to answer that are the ones who sat in front of that screen with the timer counting down and Mr. C's rotten egg head staring back at them. They lived it. Ask them. And if you've got an answer, please let me know in that comment section below. So there's nothing particularly extra about Extra Math, but is there anything that makes you feel ready when it comes to iReady? Let's find out. iReady. iReady is an adaptive learning platform used in American schools. About 14 million students use it, and it's split into two parts. A diagnostic test that figures out what level you're at, and a set of lessons that are supposed to teach you based on the results. On paper, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Personalized learning, giving every teacher the data they need to meet every child where they are. But something's gone very, very wrong. iReady has a 1.1 star rating on Site Jabber. 94% of those are 1 star. Curriculum Associates, the company behind iReady, has disabled comments on both of its official YouTube channels. And a student described the experience of iReady in such harrowing terms that you have to hear it for yourself. "I'm an 8th grader and I have to use this godforsaken, sorry excuse of a website. The diagnostic is long, annoying, boring and uninteresting. Only the hard questions are graded, and getting 3 wrong answers makes you fail the lesson. When you fail a lesson, they make you do it all over again with absolutely no guidance at all. Now, iReady is truly just a waste of time and has become a modern form of medieval torture." Medieval torture? That's a child describing their maths homework. And he's not alone. Indeed, the damage goes deeper than frustration. Kids are crying at their desks over iReady. Parents are describing anxiety, panic, children who used to love maths and now refuse to touch it. A 7-year-old testified before a government body that iReady should be against the law. Students are being pulled out of playtime because their diagnostic scores aren't high enough. We're looking at a mental health crisis dressed up as an educational tool. Hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into EdTech tools. Thank you. Back to the video. Now, because I'm British, I never used iReady. I didn't grow up with it, I've never taught with it, and honestly, until recently, I'd never even heard of it. When I was at school, if you tried your best, that was enough. You did a worksheet, your teacher marked it, and if you got stuff wrong, they'd sit with you and explain it. Nobody was tracking your minutes. You were a person, not a metric. And the more I've researched iReady, the more I realise that's exactly what's been lost. But nowadays, we do have something similar to iReady in the UK. Indeed, what we have is Sparks Maths, which might actually be worse. We'll get to Sparks later, but just know, America does not have a monopoly on this. Oh, and Curriculum Associates just launched iReady Pro, their shiny new version for older students. Is it any better? We'll find out later. In one of my last videos, I talked about GoGuardian, the surveillance software that watches everything American students do on their school laptops, even at home, even on holidays. Now I'm looking at iReady, the platform that measures everything they are. Between GoGuardian snooping on every tab they open and iReady tracking every answer they give, these kids have no space left to just be kids. America calls itself the land of the free. From where I'm sitting, it looks more like the land of the surveilled. I was inspired by Shrink's video, iReady is the worst, which has nearly 500,000 views and absolutely nails the student experience. Indeed, the one line that really stuck with me was this.
Personally, I think these websites were created as a way to measure students not as people, but as metrics.
Seriously, go watch Shrink's video after this one. He lived it. I'm just the horrified Brit looking in from the outside. Anyway, here's some reasons why iReady needs to be banned from every classroom in America. Part 1. The broken test. Let's start with the diagnostic. The iReady diagnostic is an adaptive test administered up to 3 times a year. It adjusts in real time. Get a question right and the next one's harder. Gets one wrong and it drops down. Sounds reasonable enough. But think about what it actually means for a child sat in front of it. You're a 2nd grader. You get a few right. Suddenly you're looking at differential geometry and you're wondering what the hell happened. And on the flip side, if you're an 8th grader having a rough day, you might just have a question asking you to add 2-digit numbers. So embarrassing, as Shrink puts it.
On the other side of that, being an 8th grader completing 2nd grader work is crazy. It almost feels spiteful, like the website is calling you dumb and slapping you in the face with the wrong answer.
The diagnostic is long too, over an hour in many cases, sometimes even up to 2. And the results? One person said, during the diagnostic, I was on a 7th grade level in 4th grade. I don't even know how, and I was just straight up guessing 87% of the questions. Wow, a child was guessing nearly 9 out of 10 answers, and ended up getting placed nearly 3 years above their grade level because of it. The whole thing functions like a random number generator with cartoon characters. And the diagnostic is designed so that every student gets roughly half the questions wrong. That's how adaptive testing works. It keeps pushing you until you fail. iReady even shows students a video before the test.
Every student should expect to get around half the questions correct.
They're telling kids to their faces that they're going to get half of it wrong. That's not going to be good for the morale of a young child. And then schools use those tests to sort children into ability groups. So, a kid who's actually good at maths still walks out of that test feeling like they bombed it, because they were supposed to. And if you get placed in the wrong lessons, according to iReady themselves, that's on you, Vivi warns.
Some of my friends rushed and did not get lessons that were right for them.
So, iReady gives you bad results and then blames you for not trying hard enough. The child carries the responsibility. Always. The bit that really gets me is that teachers can't see the questions that their students even answered. Yes, they can't see the specific responses. They get broad summary scores, but nothing they can actually use. In a blog post called Why iReady is Dangerous, a maths teaching specialist explained, the most a teacher will ever know is that a child scored poorly, for example, in numbers and operations. Folks, that is a giant category and far too broad to be actionable. She also found mathematically inaccurate questions within her first 10 minutes on the platform. A middle school teacher in Massachusetts told Unheard that the software was telling me that my kids were completely ignorant. But I knew for a fact they could take apart a right-angled triangle and figure out the other angles. Just think about that for a moment. A teacher, a human being who sees these children every day, knows what they can do. And the computer is overruling him. The algorithm says they're ignorant, so they're ignorant. The teacher's professional judgment doesn't matter. When I was teaching English as a foreign language abroad, the most important part of my job had nothing to do with data. It was keeping kids motivated, making them feel like they could do it. Because if a kid leaves your classroom loving your subject, you've done your job. And everything I've seen about iReady suggests the exact opposite. It's turning kids who are perfectly happy with maths into kids who can't stand it. You don't build a lifelong love of learning by making kids cry at a screen. You build instead lifelong haters. And a 2016 Johns Hopkins Institute for Education Policy brief concluded, there is no evidence that iReady provides information that teachers can use to help students learn. They also noted that none of the studies we found were peer-reviewed or independent. That was back in 2016. It is now 2026 and remarkably little has changed. Part 2. The useless lessons. So you've sat through the diagnostics. You've been sorted into a level that may or may not reflect your actual ability. And honestly, this is where it goes from bad to bleak. iReady's lessons are delivered through animated characters with names like Yoop, Yooply, and Snarg. I wish I was making that up. If you're 13 years old and being spoken to like a toddler by a cartoon called Snarg while your teacher watches from behind a dashboard, I think you're entitled to be a bit annoyed. As a teacher described it, the characters talk to them like they are babies and they have to do a lesson, then a quiz. The lesson doesn't help at all, and a student put it even more directly. This website thinks we're all a bunch of toddlers with the way it teaches us. I mean, bake stars? Come on, man. Read a long paragraph about fishing. Okay, what was this article about? Fishing. Read a long paragraph about something else. And the cycle continues. That's it. That's the lesson. Rinse and repeat. Oh, Lucky's behind me. Hi, Lucky. Another person said, bro, I remember in the math lessons, if you got one wrong, it would give you a whole yap session before you could answer again. Because there's no teaching involved with iReady, just yapping. And if you fail a lesson quiz, typically by scoring below 60%, you have to redo the entire thing from scratch. A lesson that might take 30 to 45 minutes from the beginning. No feedback on what you did wrong, you just do it again, as a student explained. iReady never lets you see the answer to the question, so you never learn from your mistakes. And the lessons are way too long, and if you get 60%, you have to restart the whole lesson, which takes you 30 minutes. I keep coming back to this. The fact that you can't learn from what you got wrong because iReady won't show you the answers. The whole experience plays out like Groundhog Day, but with worse graphics. When I was at school, if I got a question wrong, my teacher would show me where I went wrong and at least try and help me understand it. That's what teachers do. That's what they're for. But iReady doesn't do that. It just makes you start again and again and again and again. As this student wrote, this website was the reason I broke my Chromebook in 6th grade. Smash that like button if you ever wanted to do the same. Because honestly, I get it. Part 3, the emotional damage. I want you to sit with some of these just for a moment, because this is the part that stopped me seeing iReady as a bad product and start seeing it as something that's actively hurting children. A student called Kaiden wrote, "It is torture. It makes me want to die inside. Whenever I do it, I almost cry, and sometimes I do cry. It takes hours just to do one lesson." A student in Ohio described missing field day, basically their school's fun day, because their diagnostic score wasn't high enough, in their words. There are so many bad things about this site. Today is field day, and since I didn't get a high enough score, I can't go outside to have fun and chill with the guys. I have to retake this. This has ruined my whole school year. Honestly, I'm not sure if that one's iReady's fault or the teacher's fault. Either way, the whole situation is just awful. 7-year-old Sage Price testified before the New Jersey Board of Education. When I got a low score, I would have to go back to the computer lab until I got a higher score. I hated it. It should be against the law. A 7-year-old testifying before a government body about a maths website. Seriously, let that sink in. A 6th grader wrote, "I am in 6th grade and have had to do this for homework ever since kindergarten. It used to be fun, not anymore, and I have never learned anything in 7 years of doing it." Her whole childhood spent in front of a screen being measured. That's honestly what it comes down to for me. We're talking about children and turning them into data. We're sorting them into color-coded categories and expecting them to be grateful. And the students know it. They feel it. A private maths tutor in Alaska with 25 years of experience said, "Universally, without a doubt, every single kid hates iReady. Even my most diligent, self-taught kids loathe it." Yep, we're looking at a product that is fundamentally failing the very people it is meant to serve. Let me know in the comments. Has iReady or any other learning platform actually impacted your mental health? I want to hear your story, so let me know in that comment section below. A teacher called Gabriella wrote, "A student in my class named Lucy got a lower score on her iReady diagnostic and was was really stressed about what her parents and even I would think of it. She was looking at a picture of an array of flowers when she was doing a multiplication lesson. She looked at it and entered in an answer. 10 times 7 equals 70. Basically, the problem was asking her to write the full equation for the model shown. They marked her wrong. The answer was 7 times 10 equals 70. She was so close. She cried for the rest of the day. That one moment could be the moment that Lucy decided she hates maths. And it was iReady that did that to her. Part 4. The Trapped Teachers. Maybe you're thinking that your teacher doesn't care, that iReady is broken, but I want to be honest with you, that's not entirely fair, because a lot of teachers do care. They care deeply, they just can't do anything about it. As this now former teacher said, the day that the principal told us we needed to do iReady 3 times a week, that's when I was done. It was 3 hours a week for each class, when we only had 5 hours a week. So 60% of the teaching was going to be done by this computer that the kids absolutely hate. That's not what I went to college for. This teacher quit. But I guarantee you, for every teacher that actually walks out the door, there are hundreds more who have mentally checked out but can't afford to leave. They show up, they press play on iReady, and then they sit behind a dashboard watching kids do something that they know doesn't work. That's what demoralization looks like in a school. A Mr. J in West Virginia described what happened when his students' iReady minutes dropped. A district administrator came to my class and sat me down and told me that I had to do what I'm told. Teachers at my school are worried. There's absolute fear. The teacher who quit from earlier added, educators will not stick their necks out. They don't want to get fired. Teachers are terrified. And a student captured the other side. Most of my teachers hate it, but assign it so they don't get fired. That's it. That's the whole system. Teachers know it's broken. Students know it's broken. But the people making the decisions, the administrators, the district officials, the people who signed the contracts, they're not the ones sitting in the classroom watching the students cry. A maths educator of 24 years resigned in 2022, writing, if the COVID pandemic didn't take enough from our kids, this will finish them off. That's someone who survived 24 years in education, and iReady was the thing that finished them off. In fairness, and I do always want to be fair, some teachers do absolutely seem to love iReady. They love the data, they love the way it groups students by need. One teacher said, I love the way student data is broken down after the diagnostic is taken. Another said their students found a love for the program and get excited to use it. Honestly, I do believe them, but here's one thing I noticed. Every single positive review had a caveat. When used properly, in moderation. One teacher on Reddit said, we use it for 1 hour max per week. 2 might be pushing it a bit. Even the people who like it are basically saying, this works as long as you barely use it. At that point, it's basically a warning label. Part 5. iReady Pro. So, you'd think, after years of this, Curriculum Associates might have actually fixed things. Enter iReady Pro, the company's purpose-built platform for older students, launched for the 2025-2026 school year. They've ditched the cartoon characters, added an XP leveling system, and given students dashboards to track their own progress. CEO Kelly Sear said, middle schoolers deserve learning that feels relevant and empowering. And look, I'll give them this. Addressing the fact that teenagers don't want to be taught by a cartoon called Snarg is a step in the right direction. It even won a Tech and Learning Award. I mean, sounds promising, right? But the underlying diagnostic is still the same one that teachers have been calling unreliable for years. The data that goes in is still the same broad, unactionable data, and the company is simultaneously rebranding the diagnostic as iReady Inform and offering a shorter version, which is basically an admission that the older one took too long, even if, of course, they won't actually say it out loud. One student noticed something telling. The diagnostic used to give you a game to take a break, but in Pro, it's been replaced with useless breathing exercises. So, the company took a product that students regard as medieval torture and thought, what if we added mindfulness? So you can be mindful of how awful the test is making you feel. Meanwhile, in December 2025, parent activists filed a federal class action lawsuit in Massachusetts, accusing iReady of operating as a compulsory child surveillance system that sells highly intimate academic and psychographic demographic profiles of children. The allegations remain unproven, and Curriculum Associates denies selling student data. But the fact we've gone from bad reviews to federal litigation should tell you something about where all of this is heading. iReady Pro is a fresh coat of paint on a building with structural problems. And the people inside the building are trying to sue the landlord. What a mess. Part 6. Sparks is worse than iReady. I said at the start that I'm British. I never used iReady. In the UK, we don't use it. When I was at school, maths homework was a CGP textbook, maybe with some dodgy clip art on the cover. No algorithm deciding what I was worth. But I'd be a hypocrite if I pretended that the UK had it sorted. Because we don't. We have Sparks Maths. And researching Sparks for this video was one of the most unsettling things I've ever done for this channel. Sparks has a 1.1 star rating on Trustpilot from over 800 reviews, with 95% giving it 1 star. The same score, in fact, as iReady. But Sparks might actually be worse. If you fail the bookwork check, a random quiz on answers you're supposed to have written down, it deletes your progress. You start again. Even iReady doesn't do that. A parent called Caroline wrote that her daughter had 278 questions for a single task. Almost 4 hours of work. And the mental health difficulties surrounding this app are real, as this student wrote. This has taken more of a toll on my mental health than any other thing I've ever experienced. iReady makes kids cry, Sparks Maths is putting them into therapy, and even worse. That petition, by the way, has over 10,000 signatures. One parent wrote, Sparks sparked a hatred of maths in my DS2. He wanted to be an accountant, now he hates it. DS2, by the way, is Mumsnet speak for second son. An English teacher on Mumsnet wrote that Sparks Maths is bad. Spark Science is riddled with errors, conceptually shizzle. It teaches them to recite facts by rote, rather than understand the scientific principles, and has utterly impossible open questions. As an English teacher, Sparks Reader is a frickin' abomination, and parents and teachers alike seem united in their hatred of Sparks Maths. As one parent on Mumsnet wrote, DS is at a grammar school that uses Sparks. At parents' evening, even his maths teacher said it's a nightmare. And most damningly of all, a teacher on Mumsnet confessed. So I no longer have it in me to battle my child to sit still and do their maths homework. I've decided to just do it myself. Yes, I know how Sparks works and how it will give more difficult tasks if I complete it. But if it isn't completed, my child gets detention. I struggle with this. I don't think it's fair, and I actually think the whole thing is really messed up. I can't make a complaint because I'm a teacher at his school. When a teacher would rather cheat the system rather than put his own kid through it, you know that the system has failed on every level. So, to all the Americans watching this, you're not the only ones suffering. The UK is running the same experiment on kids, just with different software, but the same devastating results. And I can't do anything about it except make videos like this and hope upon hope that someone listens. Part 7. Yet nothing will change. Before I start this section, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying you don't need any way to check how students are doing. Of course you do. I mean, teachers need data. Schools need to know which kids are struggling. Assessment matters. Everyone agrees you need to assess. The question is, how? Right now, America is spending $750 million a year on iReady. Independent researchers at Teaching by Science reviewed 3 studies and found a weighted mean effect size of just 0.10, which means little to no statistically meaningful benefit. Meanwhile, teacher-led formative assessment, exit tickets, running records, a teacher actually sitting with a child and explaining when they're stuck. Well, that produces effect sizes of 0.4 to 0.7, 4 to 7 times more effective than iReady, and it costs almost nothing and it doesn't make anyone cry. Furthermore, there are simply better platforms. Khan Academy is free and has stronger evidence. Assessments is completely free and is one of the only maths interventions to earn a What Works Clearinghouse rating of positive effect without reservations. And no high-performing education system in the world, not Finland, not Singapore, not Estonia, relies on commercial adaptive software to personalize learning. Those countries invest in teachers. America invests in curriculum associates. And then they wonder why they're so low down in the educational rankings. But here's what I think will actually happen. Nothing. iReady is simply too big. Curriculum Associates generates $750 million a year. They're backed by private equity. They're in 70% of the top 100 school districts, and at that scale, you're dealing with an institution. And institutions don't dismantle themselves because kids are crying. Instead, they rebrand the diagnostic, bolt on some breathing exercises because well-being, and call it progress. The company cares more about the data than it does about the people that the data is supposed to serve. And isn't that just the tragedy of the whole friggin' thing? Part 8. You are just a statistic. Shrink said something at the end of his video that I keep coming back to.
As students, we deserve to be given the opportunity to prosper and achieve success, not split into categories and given these repetitive assignments as if they genuinely help us.
He's right. And I think the reason that 500,000 people watched his video is that he said what every kid who's already sat through iReady already knew. What we're looking at stopped being education a long time ago. It looks like education from the outside, but feels like punishment from the inside. As for me, well, I never had iReady. I never even had Sparks. I had a pen and a worksheet and a teacher who could look me in the eye and tell me where I was going wrong. And that wasn't perfect. Nothing in education is. But it was human. And right now, 14 million American children and God knows how many British kids are sitting in front of screens, being watched by GoGuardian, being measured by iReady, and given no say in any of it. America, you can't call yourself the land of the free. Not when you're treating your kids like this. Remember that teacher who left teaching over iReady? In his words, there is no teachable moment with iReady, man. It's all kids sitting in silence staring at the freaking screen. It takes the humanity out of education. It's very sad. And once the humanity is gone, what's left? Data, dashboards, diagnostic scores, and a generation of kids who learn that their self-worth is dependent on the numbers that show up on their screen. 750 million hours of childhood are disappearing into it every year, into a product that has never been independently proven to work. And I don't think we'll ever stop letting it happen, because the people who could change this aren't the ones sitting in front of the screen actually doing the tests. They never were. As this student wisely concludes, the people who made this learning site have probably never even used it themselves for more than 15 minutes. iReady was founded in 2011 and has been hated for impressively all of those 15 years. But one edtech website released back in 2014 actually used to be loved. And it's called Prodigy Math. So, what made it so good? And, of course, where did it all go wrong? Prodigy Math. Prodigy Math was once the dream. A Pokemon-style maths game where kids became wizards, battled monsters by solving equations, and actually wanted to do their homework. Over 100 million students signed up. 90,000 schools across North America brought it into their classrooms. Teachers loved it. Kids were obsessed. It was free. Kind of. We'll come to this. It was fun, and it worked. And then Prodigy decided that wasn't enough money. See, Prodigy now runs a 3-tier membership system: Core, Plus, and Ultra. Core gets your basic maths content and a handful of perks. Plus adds science and more in-game goodies. And Ultra, the top tier, unlocks everything, including English, the biggest Magicoin bonuses, and all the flashiest rewards. And yep, we're talking up to $240 a year for Ultra. And recently, Prodigy introduced that premium currency I just mentioned, Magicoin, and gated almost everything behind it. Evolving your pets? Magicoin. Buying gear? Magicoin. Rescuing new creatures? You guessed it, Magicoin. Now, here's the clever bit, and I mean clever in the most sarcastic way possible. Magicoin was introduced to help free players. Non-members could technically rescue and evolve pets that were previously locked behind the membership. Sounds great, right? As one player put it, Magicoin was added to Prodigy as a way to evolve pets and rescue originally member-only pets without having to purchase membership. At first, I thought it would be an amazing idea, right? Wrong. Because free members have to, and I quote, grind and grind and grind through something called the treasure track to earn just tiny scraps of this currency, while paid members get Magicoin showered on them in bulk. One exasperated veteran actually did the maths. Ironic, and worked out that a single in-game buddy cost 540 Megacoin, whereas a non-member earns only about 130 Megacoin per season. That's 5 entire seasons as a free player just to unlock one buddy. And the old gold coins that players spent ages saving up? Worthless, completely devalued overnight. About as useful as a chocolate teapot. Hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into EdTech tools. Thank you. Back to the video. But it's not just free players getting shafted. Even paying members are being squeezed. One mother who'd already paid $60 for her daughter's annual core membership logged on after a big update to find that half the game now required an ultra membership. Her autistic daughter was, and I quote, literally crying because they play videos asking her to become a premium member for content that used to be included in the membership they'd already bought. The parent said that membership was now pointless. Another parent said their kids logged in the other day only to be extremely frustrated because they can no longer get the special rewards without paying an even higher tier, despite the family having paid a lot for the membership for 2 kids. So, free players can't afford anything. Paying members are being upsold on memberships they've already bought. As one student vented, all you see in Prodigy are these stupid ads showing, buy this ultra membership, kids. It's supposed to be a game for kids that want to learn mathematics in a fun way. Even core gameplay features, Mirror's Tower, unrestricted PvP battles, now reportedly require an active membership. Long-term fans, heartbroken. One player who'd been on since 2018 said, Prodigy is trash now. It's removed every single nostalgic and great aspect of itself. Another simply said, Prodigy has fallen into disrepair. It's just pay to play now. Another described it as not merely cooked, but charred by greed. And my personal favourite? The user who said Prodigy has been consumed by the demons of greed and is now being slowly digested. Poetic, that. Now, to be fair, some people argue this is a necessary evil. Only about 5% of members actually pay for memberships, so those fees technically subsidise the other 95%. And defenders point out that the adult educational content is still free. You don't need Magicoin or fancy pets to solve maths problems. 2 + 2 still equals 4, even if your character's stuck in basic robes. You know what? Fair enough. But that defense, it only goes so far. Because you might be sat watching this and thinking, okay, so Prodigy was good and now it's gone downhill. Sad, but that's just what companies do nowadays. And sure, you could see it that way. But what if I told you that this rot, it didn't start with Magicoin? What if Prodigy was never the hero of the story? What if the entire model from day one was designed to squeeze money out of children and their parents? And these recent changes are just a mask finally slipping. Because that's exactly what the evidence suggests. And trust me, it is so much worse than you think. The dark heart of Prodigy. What if your maths homework came with a side of microtransactions? What if not paying for a premium subscription meant your avatar literally trudged through virtual mud while your wealthier classmates rode on clouds above? It sounds absurd, like some dystopian parody. Yet, this is exactly the reality that Prodigy Math, a popular math game, has created in classrooms across the world. As a Brit who grew up mostly with simple textbooks and worksheets, I find myself equal parts horrified and equal parts relieved. Horrified that such a cash-grabbing scheme is passing as education, and relieved it didn't exist in my school days. Many teachers introduce it as a free supplement to lessons. In fact, Prodigy boasted it's free forever for schools and aligned to curricula. On the surface, it sounds wonderful, engaging kids in maths through a video game. I can almost hear my younger self cheering at the idea of gaming in class. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Prodigy runs on a freemium model. How Prodigy's paywall works. Prodigy's monetization is about as subtle as a slap in the face with a wet kipper. The game dangles rewards and treasures, only to snatch them away from free players. Finish a maths battle and you might see 2 treasure chests. One plain, one sparkly. Click the sparkly chest without a membership, a big buy a membership ad pops up, and you're denied the prize. Your wizard also can't evolve certain pets or even access certain areas without paying. Essentially, Prodigy creates two classes of students. Those are families who can afford the premium perks and those who cannot. The Coalition's FTC complaint called it grossly unfair and cruel to make a school-assigned tool inherently give some kids cooler stuff than others. Talk about haves and have-nots in the classroom. The company's defense is that all the actual math content is free. Only cosmetic goodies and some gameplay boosts are paid. But these goodies, they're not trivial to kids. They're coveted. Premium members get exclusive outfits, pets, and even faster progression through the game. Imagine being a struggling student and feeling dumber because your classmate zoomed ahead in a game. Not necessarily from math skill, because their parents paid for an XP boost. It's honestly a perverse incentive structure for ostensibly an educational tool. Even in the classroom mode, where explicit ads are turned off, those premium distinctions remain visible. The cloud riders and fancy costumes in full display. So even at school, the game advertises the paid tier by letting kids flaunt it. Pester power. If you're wondering how children respond to all of this, the answer is predictable. They want the cool stuff and they want it now. Prodigy's tactics bombard children with advertisements for membership and pressure children to ask parents for the upgrades. In fact, one analysis found that in the home version, kids encountered 4 times as many membership ads as maths questions. 16 ads versus only 4 maths problems in a 19-minute period. 4 times more ads than maths? Prodigy basically turns homework time into a mini commercial break every couple of minutes. I mean, no wonder kids start nagging their parents. As a result of this, parents have reported some truly heartbreaking scenes. In this Reddit thread, a dad described his first grader's reaction to Prodigy's paywall. He is so upset that he cannot evolve his guys. He was about in tears, the father wrote. The child had discovered that evolving his virtual pets, a big deal in the game, was locked behind a membership. A video game marketed as a learning tool had literally made a poor kid cry. All because his dad wouldn't pay for a maths upgrade. If that isn't messed up, I don't know what is. Perhaps the most infuriating story I found was a parent that did actually cave to the pressure and then regretted it deeply. All the spam pop-ups, kid really excited and begging. I bought the membership for a year, the parent wrote, presumably hoping to end the pestering. But Prodigy, knowing Prodigy, wasn't done. Oh look, now we have a higher membership level. Enjoy new spammy pop-ups for it, they added sarcastically. Yes, Prodigy introduced an even more expensive ultimate membership, around $180 a year, and immediately started upselling the child on that. It's like paying a ransom only to have the kidnappers demand a second payment. This new ultimate tier, added in late 2021, further stratified the user base. As if regular premium versus free wasn't bad enough, now there's Premium Plus for kids to envy. Good grief. To be fair, not every child is reduced to tears. Some actually learn a savvy lesson in disappointment. One Reddit commenter recounted telling the kids that if they wanted the premium features, they could use their own birthday money or Christmas money to buy it. The child did and regretted it. Lesson learned. Another parent said they use it as an opportunity to teach about microtransactions. I'd rather have him learn this lesson now and hate games than have them, one father wrote, hoping his son will avoid wasting money on such schemes in the future. It's pretty sad when a maths game intended for education becomes an early lesson in consumer protection, essentially training kids to spot predatory monetization. One could argue that Prodigy is inadvertently teaching financial literacy, but that's certainly not the maths lesson that parents or teachers signed up for. Teachers weigh in. What do teachers think of Prodigy? The answer is a mixed bag. Some see a useful tool, but many are appalled by the paywall and distractions. On the one hand, I found teachers who used Prodigy like a reward or a fun practice tool. When used strictly in the free classroom mode, a few educators noted it can motivate students who otherwise dislike maths, and it gives teachers some data on which skills kids struggle with. It's a nice way to let them play a game as a reward, which still has some educational value, wrote a Year 4 teacher, though he added, I do hate how they pander for membership. In other words, teachers appreciate the engagement, but loathe the constant upselling that creeps in. In other words, no teacher wants to deal with kids whining about not having membership during class. Indeed, plenty of teachers are outright hostile to Prodigy's approach. Especially in communities of educators, you'll find strong words, to say the least. Oh god, I hate Prodigy. It's a game, not very educational TBH, one special educational teacher commented bluntly. Another educator lamented the gamification of learning, saying, I really hate the gamification of school. They don't need early exposure to all of the behavioral tricks for capturing attention. It's like they're being trained to fall for meaningless internet points, loot box scams, and gambling. The comment goes on to say that kids should be learning to persevere with boring tasks, like multiplication on paper, rather than being conditioned to expect rewards 24/7. Instead of teaching delayed gratification and focus, Prodigy's constant reward loops might be doing the opposite, giving kids a sugar rush of dopamine for every trivial achievement, then asking them to swipe a credit card, well, nag mum or dad for one, to get even more. Some teachers simply refuse to engage with Prodigy at all. They see it as exploiting families and want it nowhere near their classrooms. Susan Lin, a psychologist and veteran children's advocate, summed it up. Prodigy doesn't belong in schools. It's grossly unfair and cruel for the company to pressure kids and parents to buy a paid version by claiming that it's more educational or better in any way than the free version. When an educational product draws words like exploitative, predatory, and deceptive from educators and child development experts, you know there's a serious problem. The consensus among many teachers is that Prodigy may look like a harmless, even helpful game on the surface, but underneath, it's undermining all the values that we want to instill in children. Learning isn't about virtual avatars or flashy pets, and it certainly shouldn't depend on your parents' ability to pay. Kids speak out. Thus far, we've heard from parents and teachers, but what about the kids themselves? The ones smack in the middle of this gamified circus. It turns out that many of them see through Prodigy's nonsense as well, especially the older ones. One commenter reminisced. Back in the day, all the cool kids had the premium version of Prodigy. That's how ingrained the pay-to-win status symbols were. Being a premium member in Prodigy was basically a social currency back in elementary school. Another admitted, I remember begging my mum for the premium version. I was that guy. The phrase begging my mum really stuck with me. It's exactly the kind of pester power that Prodigy was engineered to promote. And here's a young adult looking back with a bit of embarrassment about how the game manipulated them. One of the most striking posts I saw was simply titled, Is it just me or is Prodigy trash? This user said, I hate Prodigy. It's just disgusting PTW, they ranted. PTW meaning pay to win. It forces ads for its premium in your face every time you log in and clutters your inventory with items you can't use without premium. Hard to put it any better. Even the kids are fed up with the forced marketing and the reminders of what they can't do without paying. Another chimed in. I never got to evolve my Prodigy pets because you had to pay for that. Imagine being a child playing a math game and uttering that sentence. Evolving pets, supposedly a fun reward for mastering math challenges, turned into a gated feature behind a paywall. So the kid did all the work, solved the problems, but the game said, nope. Not until you pay. Naturally, that kid now hates Prodigy too. The bitterness is perhaps most palpable from those who actually loved Prodigy in its earlier days. YouTuber Shrink perfectly encapsulated this heartbreak, recalling how the game once made maths engaging by blending Pokemon-style gameplay with rewarding educational content. But, as Shrink points out, that's all gone now. Looking back, Shrink can only focus on the good parts because facing the abomination is simply too depressing. A British perspective. Sitting here in the UK, reading all these accounts, I felt two things strongly. I feel outrage on behalf of all these poor kids and teachers, and I feel immense personal relief having dodged this particular bullet by simply being born too early. Growing up in Britain, my experience was blissfully boring in comparison. We had workbooks, printed worksheets, maybe the occasional educational video or a round of mental arithmetic games. Going on the computer, that was a treat, not a daily requirement. It meant 20 minutes of some maths software from some company that's probably now obsolete, rather than doing it every single day. There were no loot boxes in my long division, thank you very much. If an educational company had tried to pull a Prodigy style scheme back then, essentially sending kids home saying, ask your parents to pay £80 a year so you can get more stars in your homework game, I suspect the idea would have been laughed out of the classroom. British parents would have told the school, not on your Nelly, and that would have been the end of that. Even today, I don't see something as blatantly commercial as Prodigy thriving in the current UK environment. At least not without major pushback. In fact, when Prodigy did start advertising itself to UK teachers a few years ago, it immediately drew skepticism. The Guardian wrote about Prodigy in 2021, highlighting the US complaints and warning UK school about what this app was really really all about. As the article noted, Prodigy's premium tactics would effectively create a visible divide among students even within a classroom. To my knowledge, Prodigy hasn't taken UK schools by storm the same way that it did, for example, in North America. And good riddance. We have our own set of educational tech and games, but I'd like to think if any one of them tried such overt pay-to-win mechanics aimed at kids, there would be inquiries, perhaps a stern letter from the Department for Education, and a fast exit for that product from the approved resources list. On a personal level, I feel kind of vindicated. My slightly Luddite nostalgia for pencil and paper learning isn't entirely misplaced. Sure, as a kid, I'd have jumped at the chance to play a cool math RPG instead of doing worksheets. But would it have been worth it if it came with psychological tricks to make me beg my parents for money? I recall the biggest financial ask I had in primary school was persuading my mum to buy me a cool calculator. I can't imagine coming home in tears because a school-endorsed game wouldn't let me progress unless we paid up. This parent from Reddit has the right idea. Just tell your kid you aren't going to pay for it. If they don't like it, get a workbook and a pencil and have them go through that. It's not a competition, it's learning. Amen to that. Learning isn't a video game competition, and it certainly shouldn't be a wallet measuring contest among classmates. The sad sum of it all. Having waded through the swamp of Prodigy math stories, I'm left shaking my head. Here is a product that could have been a harmlessly fun way to practice maths, something I might have even enjoyed as a kid, but it's been twisted into a money-making machine that preys on children's impulses and parents' wallets. It's honestly the kind of thing that makes you wonder, what are we doing entrusting our kids' educations to profit-driven companies, especially with so little oversight? The FTC has been urged to step in, but as of yet, Prodigy is still out there, walking that fine, or not so fine, ethical line. And in the end, this whole saga has taught me a lesson. Be very, very careful about edutainment apps bearing gifts, especially ones that claim to be free. Prodigy isn't the first or last to use gamification to hook kids, but its excesses make it a prime example of what not to do in educational tech. I find it rather poetic that a parent on Reddit compared Prodigy to letting kids empty their piggy bank to skip parts of the game. How much fun would Mario be if you emptied your piggy bank instead of having the fun of going to the cool worlds to collect all the stars, they ask. That line, it stuck with me because it gets to the heart of the matter. Prodigy, it takes away the real sense of achievement. In a well-designed learning experience, whether it's traditional or digital, the reward is the knowledge gained, or perhaps a nice sticker from the teacher. In Prodigy, the reward too often is a flashing bauble you might literally have to buy. As a Brit dishing out some hopefully useful critique to any Americans watching, I'll end by saying this. Prodigy Math can take its paywalls, clouds, and treasure chests and bugger off out of the classroom. Give me a scruffy exercise book and a pencil any day. At least I won't try to sell an 8-year-old a $100 membership. In the battle of education versus commercialization, count me firmly in the camp that believes maths classes should be about learning maths, not learning how to outsmart an online salesman. And if that makes me sound like a grumpy old sod, well, I'll wear that like a badge. A free one, mind you, not one behind a paywall. So imagine you're a teacher. How do you make sure they behave and actually get the work done? Well, I'll tell you, dear viewer. Meet Class Dojo. If you were at school at any time in the last 10 years or so, there's likely a sound burned into your brain. That cheerful little ding, someone just got a positive point. And then there's the other one. Negative point, someone just got done. And the whole class heard it. If that's ringing a bell right now, congratulations, you were a Class Dojo kid. You had a little monster avatar. You watched your score go up and down on the smartboard while trying to work out long division. Welcome back. We need to talk about what the app was actually doing to you. Because even if you loved Class Dojo and have nothing but good memories, it was actually impacting you negatively. Hear me out. A mum called Ali, whose 5-year-old son Alex has ADD, wrote on an educator's blog. From day one, I have come to hate Class Dojo, as my son seems to get nothing positive out of it. All he gets is negative reminders of his slip-ups. He even started telling her he didn't want to go to school. I know this is because he is constantly worried about how many dojo points he will get, or will not get, and is constantly focused on the negative feedback he gets from such a system. Sad thing is, that boy was 5. Then there's the case of another little boy who came home crying because he thought he might win the weekly dojo award, but didn't. Even at bedtime, he was still going. He doesn't understand why the naughty kids get rewards, but he feels invisible. He said there's something wrong with him, and he is very upset. He's not even old enough to tie up his own shoelaces, and he's lying in bed at night thinking he's broken because of class dojo. And these stories are buried, completely buried under 5 stars and heart emojis, and teachers saying class dojo changed their lives. And I get why, because I loved this app too. Past tense. A few years back, I was teaching English as a foreign language abroad. Class Dojo was already there when I arrived. School policy, part of the furniture, if you will. And giving positive points felt great. Tap the green button, happy sound, kid beams at you. I felt like a proper good teacher, buzzing off it, honestly. Then I had to give my first negative point. A lad, let's call him K, kept interrupting. Policy was clear. I gave him a negative dojo point. That sad sound played throughout the entire classroom. K's face dropped. He looked around at his mates. His score went down on the board where everyone could see. He was about 8, and I felt rotten. I told myself he'd been warned and tried to move on. Over time, the guilt faded, but tapping that button became a reflex. I told myself it was fine because it was what everyone else did. After I left teaching, I started seeing stories like Ali's online, and the more I read, the heavier that guilty feeling got, because these parents are talking about kids who come home from school and cry, the ones who stop wanting to go to school altogether. And I started thinking, was I a part of this? So let's start with the well-behaved kids. You'd think they'd be fine, right? They're following the rules, the system should leave them alone. But here's the sick irony. Teachers naturally focus on the disruptive kids. When a naughty kid finally sits still, that's worth a positive point. It's a big moment. But the quiet kid who's been sitting nicely all day, they just don't get noticed. You get fewer points through sheer invisibility. And then they look at the board and think they're failing. Another child actually managed to work out a hack for Class Dojo, a way to get a guaranteed perfect score. Days where she received 100% positive, I excitedly asked her what made the difference. She explains that she just sits there and doesn't talk all day. Those days she appears sad and expresses that she didn't enjoy school that day. Think about that. An 8-year-old figured out that the only way to win a Class Dojo was to become silent. And on the day she even managed that, which shouldn't be possible for an 8-year-old, she became miserable, the mother added. This system seems to fail at taking into account that these are 8 and 9-year-old children, not robots. Another mum described her son as learning a similar behavior tactic. My son avoids this teacher. Asking a question can lead to a negative mark for not following directions. So, he does not ask questions and does not learn to his potential in this class. He tries to survive this experience, and that is not how a classroom should be run. Students make fun of others during breaks that received low marks. Then we need to talk about the gaming of the system. A Mumsnet parent described how her reception-age child figured out the system's perverse incentive. They had noticed that the weekly top star always went to a child that had been doing something naughty for a while, but then it did something good, so they had planned to do something naughty for a while, and then be good so that it would finally be their turn. When a 4-year-old can spot the design flaw in your app, mate, no software update is gonna fix that. And the sound. Yes, we need to address the sound directly. Kids are literally out there developing Pavlovian anxiety to the Class Dojo sounds. As this parent says, he got hardwired to do the bing sound, however, and it became a negative experience awaiting the ticks on his avatar. Was it for me? Was it good? Was it bad? He started focusing more on that than his work. Another parent added, he says the noises Class Dojo make are distracting and make it hard for him to stay on task. When students hear the sounds, they look to see who received a positive or negative point. I receive more feedback on my child's behavior than I do his class work. And some of you watching this were that kid. You were the one sat there doing everything right, watching your score stay flat, while the class clown got praised for finally shutting up for 5 minutes. You know exactly how that's felt. You just never had a word for it. Now we need to talk about the kids who cop it worst. Class Dojo punishes fidgeting, calling out, getting out of your seat, going off task. And that's a list of ADHD systems. If you grew up with ADHD and Class Dojo was in your classroom, this system was essentially docking you points for having a brain that works differently. And if you got diagnosed later in life, which loads of people do, you might be sat here right now realizing that all those negative points you racked up as a kid weren't because you were naughty. You just hadn't been diagnosed yet. One parent described her son with ADHD getting several dojos a day, sometimes a minute apart. He receives 0 positive reports on a monthly basis. He is embarrassed and thinks his teacher hates him or that he himself is dumb for not being able to stay on task. We put him on meds in the hopes that it would help. Another parent added, "My son, a straight A student with ADHD, got 44% negative 2 weeks ago, 43% negative 1 week ago, and get this, 100% negative this week." Imagine what this looks like to a child. 100% negative for a straight A student. It's mad, isn't it? And we also need to talk about the racial dimension. Coda Story investigated Class Dojo in Jefferson County, Kentucky. Moises Valencia, a single dad, welcomed the app at first, but almost immediately I was getting notifications that called my son defiant and out of control. It didn't seem like my Javi, and yet the white teachers couldn't give me specifics. And it was worse because all the other kids saw him being marked down on the projector, which made him want to give up on trying at all. He even asked the teachers how he could help. They said he just needs to not be bad. And now Javi thinks he is bad, but he is not. He is really good. In the same investigation, a 7-year-old black girl got called a racial slur by a classmate. Understandably, she walked out crying. Then she got deducted points for leaving the classroom. Upjohn Institute research found white teachers are 30% less likely to believe in the academic potential of their black students. And Class Dojo hands that bias a one-click, fast lane. So, you might be thinking, surely this is just teachers using the tool wrong. It's the implementation, right? Yep, that's what the defenders of Class Dojo will say. If your child is following the rules, they have nothing to worry about. Or they might add, until a person teaches a class themselves, they should say nothing. But the problems with Class Dojo are actually baked into the very design itself, and we've actually known this for nigh on 50 years. We indeed need to talk about this incredibly interesting 1973 study. As part of the study, researchers rewarded preschoolers for drawing, something that they already love to do. And afterwards, those kids who got a reward for drawing, they spent half as much time drawing as the kids who got nothing, basically showing that the reward killed the thing they loved. This is in fact called the overjustification effect. A meta-analysis of 128 studies confirmed it. Rewards for things that people already want to do actually undermines the motivation to do them, and they found that it's worse in children than in adults. So when Class Dojo gives points for being kind and helping others, it actually turns genuine motivation into a transaction. So be kind and you get points. Take the points away, however, and the kindness goes with it. It's like paying your mate to help you move house, and then wondering why he stops answering your calls when you stop paying. A 3rd grader in the New York Times, bless her, summed the whole thing up. "I like it because you get rewarded for your good behavior, like a dog does when it gets a treat." She got it. She absolutely got it. Jamie Manolev at the University of South Australia compared Class Dojo directly to China's social credit system. Constant monitoring, behavior converted into scores. Scores used to control people. And actually, here's where I owe you something, because when I think back, I mean really think back, I actually gave way more negative points than I'm comfortable admitting. And yeah, I know some of you are probably watching this thinking, mate, you're literally the problem you're describing. And yeah, I kind of think I was. It was so easy, just one tap. You move on. I mean, you don't really think about whether that kid then goes home and cries. I think it's because the system made it feel normal. Cute monsters, cheerful sounds, you got a clean interface. And everyone's doing it. I mean, the school told you to do it, so I guess you do it. And somewhere out there, a kid is learning that their worth is a number on a screen. Which brings us on nicely to the money. Because whilst ClassDojo may be free for schools, parents actually get upsold on ClassDojo Plus, which jumped from $5 to $15 a month in late 2024. And over 1 million parents subscribe, which is wild when you think that it wasn't parents who chose this platform. The school did. The moment you download the app, you're in a commercial funnel. One parent's got multiple pushy invitations to sign up within 5 minutes of creating an account. A teacher admitted she was kind of appalled at the prompts, and teachers don't know that happens. The premium tier locks away read receipts on messages. WhatsApp manages that for free, but alright ClassDojo. Kids' classroom photo memories behind the paywall. Over 125 exclusive monster accessories that free users can't get. Whilst it may be the same virtual world, some kids have fancier avatars based on, of course, what their parents can afford. The biggest investor in ClassDojo is a company called Tencent, a Chinese tech giant. They have valued ClassDojo at $1.25 billion. And if ClassDojo ever gets sold, all of that behavioral data on tens of millions of children goes to the buyer. Baroness Biban Kidron called it a Faustian deal. Free technology at the cost of children's data. And ClassDojo, it keeps growing. They've added an AI assistant in 28,000 schools. And as of 2026, ClassDojo payments. Schools handling money through the app at 60,000 retail locations. And of course, every expansion makes it harder to leave. So where does this leave us? And more specifically, where does this leave you? Because if you grew up with ClassDojo, you were part of an experiment that 50 years of psychological research said was a bad idea. You were scored, ranked, publicly displayed and surveilled, and you were told it was normal because everyone else was doing it too. Some of you thrived in that system and have genuinely fond memories, and some of you didn't because some of you were always in the red. Some of you learned to sit still and shut up and stop asking questions because that was the only way to survive. And some of you are only realizing now that the problem was the system, not you. And we have to say that alternatives do exist. Approaches that build self-regulation from within, instead of training kids to perform for points. Montessori, after all, has done it for over a century. But ClassDojo is easier to install than a philosophy for education, so here we are. Haley O'Connor, a teacher, wrote, "To be honest, this one makes my stomach hurt. I'm so ashamed that I ever used these in my classroom. I think it made students feel that their worth to me and their classmates was tied to how well they could stay in their seats, not shout out or follow instructions." And it's fair to say, I know exactly how she feels. And a reviewer on Common Sense Education wrote a line I keep coming back to. "Please, please, please, know that this app is a disservice to the nature of a human being. Leave ClassDojo to Pavlov's dogs where it belongs." Yeah. What they said. If this video made you think twice about the app, why not share it with a teacher or parent who uses it? Because the kids being hurt by this thing can't exactly make a YouTube video about it, can they? They're like 5. They're just trying to get through the day without hearing that bloody negative dojo sound. So these are the websites that totally ruined your childhood. Technology that was meant to educate you ended up scarring millions of you, probably for life. And the worst website of all, the one which ruined and continues to ruin so many kids' lives, even to this very day, is... wait. I can't go through an entire EdTech video without mentioning the 3 letters that still haunt children's dreams. Those 3 letters, of course, being IXL. If we took IXL at their words, it would be one of the best EdTech platforms in the world. As they say, at IXL Learning, we are passionate about improving learning for all. We apply technology in thoughtful and innovative ways to unlock learners' innate curiosity, creativity, and desire for knowledge. Their mission page talks about empowering students and inspiring motivation, and addresses what they call the emotional side of learning. What gets people excited to take on new challenges? What gives a reluctant learner that sudden jolt? I'm good at this. The CEO keeps saying how much they care about the kids. In his words, "We will never do something just because it is profitable. We will only do things here if they improve education for teachers and students." And you know what? Maybe it's true, because teachers seem to absolutely love it. One called it the best website that I have seen and used in the last 3 years. A special education teacher added, "My kids are less afraid of failure and far more driven towards success since I started using IXL. These are real people in real classrooms. I don't doubt their experiences. But these edtech platforms are meant to make teachers' lives easier. They're meant to help students learn and build confidence. And on that front, IXL is failing catastrophically, because IXL is used by over 18 million students, and yet it has a 1.1 star rating on SiteJabber from over 600 reviews, just 1.4 stars on Trustpilot, and over 7,500 mostly negative reviews on Common Sense Media from children and parents combined. I think it's really important we listen to student experiences, because this isn't just someone complaining about homework being hard. This is trauma, as this pupil wrote. This app causes extreme anxiety and even some symptoms of depression, and I know I'm not the only one. I have asked my peers at school about it, and they have all said the exact same thing. The only thing this app does for kids is give them more stress than they already have when navigating through growing up. Anxiety, depression, from a learning platform aimed at children. And the parents, they're sitting right there, next to their children, watching it happen, also traumatized. One parent indeed wrote, "IXL is torture for children. A correct answer gives you 1 to 2 points, an incorrect one takes away 10 to 15 points. That isn't even done in colleges and universities, but we're doing it to elementary students? We are crushing their spirits." You can actually watch their interesting learning smothered in real time. So this isn't me saying that. That's the voice of the people that IXL was meant to serve. 18 million children are using this platform, and thousands of them, along with their parents, are begging someone to listen. So, how does a company that says all the right things about confidence and growth and the joy of learning end up with one of the lowest satisfaction ratings in all of educational technology? How does what IXL call a labour of love become, in the words of one student, top-tier torture designed as an educational tool? Now, I may not have had to endure IXL myself, but if there's one thing I've always hated, it's a hypocrite. You know the type. Someone who says one thing and does another. Especially when it's a massive, powerful corporation with hundreds of millions of dollars telling you they care about your child's emotional well-being while operating a system that routinely makes children sob at their desks. That I cannot stand. So let's go through IXL's promises, 7 of them, and show how every single one has been broken. Part 1. The SMART score. IXL says, "We address the emotional side of learning. What gives a reluctant learner that sudden jolt? I'm good at this." So, we better talk about the SMART score, the system IXL built to deliver that jolt. The SMART score runs from 0 to 100. 80 means proficiency. 90 means excellence. 100 means mastery. IXL says it's not a percentage score, but a dynamic measure of progress towards mastery. They even call the experience a productive struggle. Well, here's how it actually works. Early on, scores 0 to 70, you get big gains for correct answers and small penalties for wrong ones. IXL says this is designed to allow students to build self-efficacy. But once you pass 80, the maths flips. Correct answers earn you 2 or 3 points. A single wrong answer costs you 7, 10, sometimes even up to 15 points. And above 90, what IXL calls the challenge zone, correct answers earn just 1 to 2 points, whilst one wrong answer can erase everything, as one person put it. The fact they give you like 2 points when it's correct, but when it's wrong, they take away like 7,777. And teachers can't change this. It's the system, and everyone is stuck with it. So, what gives a reluctant learner that sudden jolt? Let me show you what that jolt actually looks like. A student wrote, "IXL presents itself as a smart and adaptive learning platform. In practice, it feels more like a stress test than an an educational tool. You can answer a long streak of questions correctly, miss one and watch your score drop hard. That does not motivate improvement. It makes students afraid to make mistakes. Learning requires trial and error. IXL treats errors like failure instead of part of the process. The repetition is exhausting. Instead of helping you truly understand a concept, it pushes you to grind through similar questions until you hit a specific SMART score number. That is not mastery, that is compliance. That students identified exactly what IXL is training students to do, and it's the exact opposite of everything on their mission page. An 8th grader put it more poetically. It makes students feel like Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the mountain, but instead of a boulder, it's the SMART score, and it rolls down more and more each time. And if you've used IXL, I imagine you know exactly what that feels like. That moment where you've been grinding for 40 minutes, you can see the finish line, and one slip then sends you tumbling back to where you started. It teaches you that effort doesn't matter. That no matter how hard you try, the system will find a way to punish you. What does that do to a child's relationship with trying? And then there's Gwyneth, an 8th grader who has autism. She wrote, like, I get one question wrong and I go from 90 SMART score to 78. I am a kid with autism and that only makes it worse. For me, it doesn't help. It's just another assignment that I have to complete. I don't think about what the question is about, I just search it up to get it done. It doesn't help kids comprehend anything, it's just constant stress. IXL promised to unlock curiosity. Instead, they built a system so punishing that a child with autism just Googles the answer to make it stop. Truly a sad state of affairs. And the name. They call it the SMART score. One reviewer wrote, SMART score makes it sound like if you don't get 100 SMART score, you are not smart. Another child captured the full weight of it. It doesn't feel like growth. It feels like IXL whispering, you're worthless. IXL promised a jolt of, I'm good at this. What they delivered was a whisper of, you're worthless. Part 2. The fallout. IXL's VP of Product says she's passionate about creating experiences that build confidence and inspire a sense of limitless potential. On IXL's website, a featured teacher testimonial reads, it has not only helped them master specific skills, but has really given them confidence in their math abilities. Confidence and limitless potential. Their words. So let me tell you what it actually looks like inside people's homes, such as the story of Isla, who is going into 6th grade. She wrote, IXL has made me cry millions of times and I'm going into 6th grade now. It gives me stress and makes me angry. One time I was so angry I almost broke the iPad. I tried explaining to my mum how I hate IXL and even showed her the reviews which are 1-star ratings. But she keeps on saying, so what? That's the other people's opinion about IXL. IXL is good, so keep on doing it. I can't believe she doesn't understand how I feel too. Please, if you're a parent, please understand how your child feels about IXL. And if you're a child, tell your parents. Have the courage to tell them exactly how you feel about IXL. Isla is angry at the adults in her life for not listening. She did everything right. She found their evidence. She showed her mum the reviews. 1 star. 1 star, 1 star. And her mum said, keep going. Because children don't get a chance to opt out of what adults decide are good for them. And the parents who are listening, they're horrified by what they see. One parent wrote, it is incredibly detrimental to my children's self-esteem. They are both a mess when she got one wrong. It takes forever to get through it and there are always tears. Her teacher way overassigns it. Kids have enough anxiety and stress right now. It's just mean. There aren't just tears on bad days, there are tears always. Think about what this means for a child's developing brain. Every single encounter with this platform ends in distress. They start to associate learning itself with pain. IXL is literally rewiring how children feel about homework. Then there's a student who wrote, they literally had to get me a new Chromebook from the student's office from all the water that had been on the keys. They asked where it had come from, and I said that it was from IXL. IXL promised to build confidence. This child's school had to replace hardware because of how hard they cried. A few years ago, someone literally punched and broke their computer because of IXL. I hate IXL, and I literally started raging and punched my Chromebook and broke the screen screen, and now I freaking just broke the space bar. These poor kids have so much stress that their body takes over before their brain can even stop it. And it goes beyond frustration. I literally remember a friend of mine having an actual panic attack in class because of this website. Think about what a panic attack actually is. Your body going into fight or flight because it perceives genuine danger. A maths app did that to a child sitting at their desk during a lesson, and the parents can see it happening. My dad got secondhand frustration from watching me do IXL, to the point he called the teacher and school, and by some miracle got them to stop assigning the mind-splintering assignments known as IXL. That dad watched his child suffer night after night until he couldn't take it anymore and picked up the phone. And he won, but most parents don't get that option. The district signed the contract, so your kid is stuck with it. A 5th grader wrote, "The amount of stress building in my mind is as high as the stars after the sun retires. I was crying and I had to call my mum for support. It physically made my body hurt. Smart score? Is it telling us how stupid we are?" That child is 10 years old and asking already whether a computer thinks they're worthless. And that question will follow them. The next time they sit in exam, the next time a teacher asks them to try something hard. The website says the platform builds confidence in math abilities. This parent said it gave their child depression. One of those statements is marketing, the other one is someone's life. As this person summarizes nicely, even the CIA refuses to use IXL as a torture method. Part 3. The kids who need it most. IXL meets the unique needs of each learner. Unique needs sounds great, right? So let me tell you what happens when a neurodivergent child sits down in front of IXL. A 4th grader with attention deficit disorder wrote, "I have to use IXL for virtual learning every day, and it is a nightmare. I'm in 4th grade, and my teacher makes me get the SMART score to 100. I have ADD, and I'm not great at math, so it is hard to finish each lesson. If a teacher is reading this, please stop assigning your students IXL." That child has a diagnosed condition that makes sustained attention on repetitive tasks harder. The platform doesn't know or doesn't care why a child got the question wrong, whether they didn't understand the concept or whether their ADHD brain clicked impulsively before they finished reading. The punishment is the same. An education advocate documented the case of a 6th grade boy with severe dyslexia. She wrote, "The small rural school uses IXL, an online practice tool that supplements learning. Teachers like it because it provides them immediate feedback on progress. Parents dislike it because it demoralizes their children. The parents I'm helping can do homework for 4 to 5 hours each night, sometimes until 12:30 at night." Thankfully, that family eventually got the child exempted from IXL entirely, and the school bought them a different program instead. But it took meetings, advocacy, and a fight that most parents don't have the energy or knowledge to win. And then there's the DC Urban Mum Forum, specifically the Kids with Special Needs and Disabilities subforum. It is the worst online system for anxious OCD kids. I'm guessing teachers like it because there's no homework to correct. Another parent in the same thread described sitting next to their child. "Often I would just have him verbally give me the answer and type it in for him so he doesn't make careless mistakes. He's not going to learn concepts with IXL." The parent knows, they say it plainly, that their child will get nothing from IXL. They're just trying to get through it without a meltdown. And parent Nicole described how IXL changed her son's entire relationship with maths. Whenever he struggles with a concept, the continual negative feedback with a honking sound became very discouraging to him. We stopped using IXL for him because he was getting so overwhelmed and began thinking he was bad at math. I went back to paper and pencil without the immediate reprimand for being wrong. He's doing much better now. Isn't it obvious? The platform was the problem. Remove the platform, the child recovers. IXL says it meets the unique needs of each learner. For neurodivergent children, IXL meets their unique needs with a system that cannot be adjusted and punishes the exact type of errors their conditions make inevitable. Part 4. The Data Trade-off. Now, I've spent this entire video dismantling IXL's claims, but there's a question underneath all of this that I need to address, because it's the question teachers will ask. If IXL is so hated, then why do so many educators use it? And the answer is data. Teachers love IXL's data. They love the diagnostics, they love the reports. They love seeing exactly which standard each student is struggling with and being able to pull up analytics at a parent-teacher conference. A teacher in Virginia said, "I believe IXL is one of the top contributors to improved student performance on MAP assessments." A teacher in Florida added, "I love the analytics, which show me so many different ways to view my students' progress, strengths, and weaknesses." And they're not wrong. IXL's data tools are, by most accounts, genuinely excellent. I kept looking at the reviews though, and I noticed a pattern. Almost every positive teacher review talks about what IXL gives the teacher, data and time saved. Almost every negative student review talks about what IXL does to the student, stress and broken devices. These are two completely different experiences of the same product. And the question IXL refuses to answer is, does the data justify the damage? Maths teacher Dylan Kane wrote an essay called IXL is a Scourge on Math Education. His thesis? IXL is designed to be used badly. He argued that IXL treats maths as a set of discrete skills to master and then move on. But lots of students finish an IXL skill feeling confident, then completely forget the skill because they never see it again. To him, IXL prioritizes quantity over quality. Asking students to spend 60 minutes a week practicing math turns practice into drudgery, teaches students to game the system and waste their time. Even school principals are getting in on the act. I am the principal at Jacobs Junior High School. Unfortunately, we've spent hundreds of dollars replacing Chromebooks because many students are raging at their IXLs. Our counselor is seeing the most students because of IXL. IXL says it addresses the emotional side of learning. Well, the emotional side is children are in the guidance office. Part 5. It doesn't teach. IXL says they create breakthrough solutions to education's most pressing challenges and simple, intuitive ways for educators and students to teach and learn more effectively. Teach and learn. Those are the words they choose. So, what does IXL actually teach? Well, it doesn't. It tests. There's a difference and it's enormous. Unlike Khan Academy, which is free and gives you full video instruction before you try a single problem, IXL provides no video lessons. None. You get instead a question. If you get it wrong, you get a wall of text that's meant to explain your mistake. And as for those explanations, as a teacher describes, my students have come up to me crying, asking why they got a question wrong because the explanation doesn't make any sense. Students have been sent to guidance because IXL is so frustrating. I tell them, try reading the explanation first, and they say, I have, but I don't get my mistake. I read the explanation and the students do make a point. These explanations are wordy and are hard to understand even for a teacher. A trained educator reading IXL's feedback going, yeah, I don't get it either. This is a platform that charges families up to $19.95 a month. For what? A quiz with confusing answers and no instructions? A student editorial in a school newspaper called The Oarsman nailed it. Unlike Khan Academy, IXL doesn't provide any sort of digestible explanation like videos related to the particular lesson you're working on. And that's a student, not a teacher, not a researcher, identifying the fundamental product flaw. Children can see the other platforms teach before they test. They're not asking for less work, they're asking to actually be taught. And IXL won't do it. A college student who used IXL all through middle and high school wrote, the steps used in the explanation aren't even correct half of the time too. I honestly could add so many negative things. But I need to go and teach my sister the stuff that she is trying to learn through IXL, since the program can't teach properly. They're teaching their own sister, because IXL, the company that promises breakthrough solutions to education, can't. A college student is doing the job a billion-dollar company charges $20 a month for and can't manage. And when the platform doesn't teach and the explanations don't help, what do you think students do? They Google it. They use AI. One student wrote, it induces stress and makes students want to use AI resources just to get it done with. Gwyneth, the 8th grader with autism, said, I don't think about what the question is about, I just search it up and get it done. IXL said they create simple, intuitive ways to learn. In practice, students have discovered it's faster to ask ChatGPT than than to engage with IXL's own explanations. The platform itself has become a wall between children and understanding. And on top of not teaching, there comes a point when you've done an IXL for so long, you begin to memorize the answers because the questions have been repeated so many times. That was truly my breaking point. Dude, that's just sad. That's just memorizing patterns. It's like a broken record playing to an empty room. And the thing that pissed people off the most was when IXL pretended you didn't have the correct answer, even though they were quite literally the exact same thing. So damn true. And this next student even gives an example of it happening. I literally put $9.9 for the answer, and it said it was wrong because it's $9.90. It's the same thing. I had a 99 smart score and it brought me down to 85. Plus, I'd already done 35 questions already. Just a simple formatting error cost them 14 points and 35 more questions of their life. Smash like if IXL ever marked you wrong for something that was actually right, because I'm sure it happened. Part 6. The time trap. So I want to talk about what IXL does to a child's time, because the smart score's asymmetry means homework can theoretically never end. If a teacher sets a target of 85 and a student keeps getting knocked back, they're not doing 20 minutes of maths practice. They're doing 5 hours. A student's newspaper editorial at Falls Church High School put it plainly. With IXL, it is possible to never be done with homework. A system where a child could sit at a computer from the moment they get home until midnight and still not be finished. IXL calls that productive struggle. Everyone else calls it an endurance test. One student wrote, "I've had to stay up till 5:45 in the morning because of this infuriating student torture." Another calculated it with devastating precision. "It's shocking to see how much time I spent on IXL in the past 30 days alone. 46 hours, almost 2 whole days of my life." That's a full work week spent by a child on a single app in a single month. If you're watching this and you've done IXL, why don't you add up your hours? Let me know in the comments, and then think about what you could have done with that time. You could have seen your mates, played sport, slept. IXL took it, and they never gave it back. And then we come to the true name reveal of IXL. IXL, insufferable, excruciating loop of endless diagnostic hell. Productive struggle, try productive suffering. Part 7. Forced. CEO Paul Mishkin said, "The evidence is strong that students retain knowledge best when they are in charge of their own learning." So let's talk about what in charge actually looks like. Venice High School in Los Angeles requires students in non-AP Maths and English classes to complete at least 50 minutes of IXL per week. Their student newspaper, The Oarsman, published an editorial titled "IXL Makes Life Tedious for Students." At Falls Church High School, the student newspaper, The Jaguar, reported that students are given IXLs in masses and forced to complete them, or else a huge grade drop will occur. And students captured this level of capture perfectly. IXL advertises themselves as trusted by millions of educators and used by over 15 million students. But they never mentioned that students don't use it by choice. When you make something compulsory, you take on responsibility. If a child is forced to use your platform by their school, by their teacher, then the harm your platform causes is harm you are responsible for. You can't say, "We empower learners," and then trap them in a system they can't leave. A student on a school newspaper wrote that NEA and MPTA recommends no more than 10 minutes of homework per grade level per night. Yet, IXL takes at least 1 hour for each one, and teachers are assigning more than one. So, the use of IXL is breaking official guidelines. There's a shock. A parent who is also a teacher said, "My daughter, who is very smart, all AP and GT classes, now going into high school, had an IXL nightmare in the 2nd grade. Her math teacher assigned so many lessons a week as mandatory homework. It became a huge time-consuming waste of time. Many of the lessons had 50 or more problems, and if she missed a problem, it took her all the way down back to 0. It was horrible. I literally just started sitting down and doing the lessons myself after so much drama." So, a teacher, someone who understands education professionally, looked at what IXL was doing to her child and decided the only sane response was to cheat the system. And students themselves have started organising. At least 10 Change.org petitions petitions have been created to ban or restrict IXL, targeting everything from individual schools to the New York City Department of Education. One petition from Wisconsin reads, "Every night I find myself awake until 3 a.m., battling with IXL assignments. For many students like me, IXL has become a source of stress, anxiety, and even depression." Another petition at Cedarbrook School actually worked. 237 signatures. The school changed its IXL requirements. Proof that when enough people push back, something can shift. IXL's CEO says students learn best when they're in charge. Yet his platform is mandated in thousands of schools where children have zero choice and zero way out. Part 8. The Reckoning. Remember when IXL's CEO said, "We will never do something just because it is profitable"? Well, in May 2024, 3 Kansas families filed a class action lawsuit against IXL. Their children had been required to use IXL on school-issued devices. They had no choice. And the families allege that while those children were sitting there doing their maths homework, IXL was doing something else entirely, harvesting their data and monetizing it. Lead plaintiff Gretchen Shanahan described it bluntly. "They are creating a digital dossier on our kids." And when you look at IXL's own terms of service, it gets worse. They claim IXL has the right to use, reproduce, modify, adapt, publish, translate, distribute, syndicate, publicly perform, publicly display, and make derivative works of all children's content. So, your child does their maths homework on IXL, and IXL's terms say they can take that content, a child's schoolwork, and reproduce it, adapt it, sell it, do whatever they want with it. The case went before a federal judge. IXL tried to get it thrown out. They tried to force it into private arbitration where nobody would ever see it. The judge denied both, and then the FTC stepped in with unanimous votes. FTC Commissioner Andrew Ferguson wrote, "IXL's argument does not pass the smell test." The FTC's director, Samuel Levine, put it even more plainly. "Students must be able to do their schoolwork without surveillance by companies looking to harvest their data to pad their bottom line." And Common Sense Privacy, the privacy arm of Common Sense Media, gave IXL a warning rating. They found that while IXL publicly claims it will never sell student data to third parties, the actual terms tell a different story. Data profiles are created and used for data enhancement and/or targeted advertisements. So, IXL says one thing on its website and does another in its terms of service. Where have we heard that before? And at least one school district has already acted. The Etiwanda School District in California banned IXL from every campus. Their vice principal said, "IXL has been selling information to third parties. We do not approve of that." Teachers at the school admitted it was hard to lose the platform, but the district decided that children's privacy mattered more than the teacher's dashboard. So, we have a company whose CEO promised they'd never do anything just because it's profitable. $1 billion later, and a federal court is asking questions about where the children's data went. Part 9. The End. I don't know what happens next with IXL. It's too big and too entrenched for one video to change anything. After all, institutions don't dismantle themselves because kids are crying. What's strange is the content of IXL. The actual maths questions, the skill coverage, is generally acknowledged as solid. Even harsh critics say the question bank is comprehensive. And for me, that makes it worse. IXL says it's passionate about improving learning for all, and I believe that people at IXL may well believe that. But believing you're helping doesn't mean you are. And when 18 million children are using your platform, and thousands of them are telling you, in their own words, on every review site that exists, that it makes them cry, that it makes them hate learning, and your response is to punish another internal study and leave the scoring system exactly how it is, then your mission statement isn't a promise. IXL are breaking their promise to students. They've honestly broken every single one, and students know it. They've always known it. The question is whether anyone with the power to change it will ever bother to actually listen. IXL is bad, no doubt about it. But you know which platform is worse? Which website is in fact the worst website of all time? Drumroll please. iReady. Not just because of everything we already discussed earlier in my video. No, the main reason iReady sucks so much is that iReady themselves realized they were terrible. So they tried to correct it. and in doing so, they made it even worse. May I present to you iReady Pro. A 6th grader called Preston left a review of iReady Pro, the new version of iReady for older students. He wrote, iReady Pro removed all that I still liked. He's asking for the old iReady back. Yes, the old version, the one with a 1.1 star rating. That's how bad iReady Pro is. It made a 1.1 star product look good.
I wanna start from the top.
I recently made a video about iReady, the adaptive learning platform used by 14 million American students. Kids crying at desks, teachers quitting. This video today is about what Curriculum Associates did next. They launched iReady Pro, a new version for older students. New look, new XP system, new name for the diagnostic. The whole thing was supposed to fix iReady's toxic reputation with teenagers, who were being taught fractions by a cartoon character called Snark while their classmates watched. And it's gone well. Not. Because iReady Pro managed to take a product that students already described as medieval torture, stripped away the only parts they tolerated, and replaced them with a 43-second breathing video that makes kids panic. This is the story of how iReady Pro is failing on every front, and how it fits into a pattern across the entire edtech industry, where companies keep taking things away from students and calling it progress. Part 1. How do you make iReady worse? Now, here's the product design challenge. You have one of the most hated pieces of educational software in America. Students despise iReady. Teachers are leaving over iReady. The reviews are catastrophic. You need to fix iReady for older students who are especially humiliated by the childish presentation. What do? Well, if you're Curriculum Associates, you remove the brain break games. You replace them with a breathing exercise. You add an XP system that literally nobody understands, and leave every structural problem with the OG iReady untouched. Then you win an industry award for iReady Pro. Because of course you do. The brain breaks are the main story. In old iReady, during the diagnostic, you get periodic minigames. Cat Stacker, a Minesweeper variant. Nothing spectacular. The kind of thing you'd play on a Nokia in 2004. But it was a moment of relief in an otherwise relentless experience. iReady Pro replaced those games with a 45-second video of someone breathing.
Imagine a balloon that is your favorite color. The one I pick is blue. Now imagine your balloon underneath your belly button that gets biggest as you breathe in and gets smaller as you breathe out.
One student on Trustpilot wrote, iReady Pro replaced a fun game into useless breathing exercises, and I'm saying this on a school at Chromebook. The kid is using school property to file a formal complaint against the school's own software. That's iReady Pro for ya. Another wrote, since when did a website who did not care about a child's mental health start caring about relaxing and breathing exercises? The child sits there, lets it play, and then moves on. An 8th grader called Joseph called iReady Pro's breathing video a stupid, boring, and poorly edited breathing video. A $750 million company apparently couldn't nail a 45-second clip of someone inhaling and exhaling. They even butchered that. Another student reported that iReady Pro's breathing exercise low-key makes me panic more for some reason. And another noticed iReady Pro's timer cuts off at 43 seconds instead of 45. So the calming content induces panic, can't count, and was edited by someone who appears to have been doing it on their lunch break. It's the corporate equivalent of your house burning down and someone then handing you a pamphlet about fire safety. And the brain break games weren't all iReady Pro took away. I used to love iReady when all it was fun lessons and punch cards for prizes. What happened? The characters weren't everyone's favourites, but I kept wondering when I'd see them again. Then 6th grade hit. iReady Pro removed all that I still liked. The diagnostics are long, and some of my friends had to stress to complete it. I don't like iReady, and I don't think anyone would miss it. The punch cards, the coins, the reward games. The characters that, yes, were embarrassing, but also the only things that made iReady feel like it was designed for a human being rather than a server rack. iReady Pro removed all of them. On Trustpilot, a student called Seth wrote, "The iReady Pro sucks even more because you don't even get practice. They just say, do this and figure it out yourself." Some students even miss the cartoon characters that iReady Pro is built to eliminate. One pleaded, "Bring back Yoop and Plory for everyone, not just K3. Another said, "The app treats me like a 3-year-old, even in iReady Pro." The entire reason iReady Pro exists was to stop older students feeling patronized. And yet, the students using iReady Pro still feel patronized. Curriculum associates identified what students hated most about iReady and fixed it by removing the only parts they liked. The educational equivalent of renovating a flat by keeping the damp and ripping out the kitchen. iReady Pro's XP system, the big new feature, landed with the enthusiasm of a wet handshake. Adding ranks ain't gonna help encourage students if the lessons make you stay longer than usual. Another student added, "Awards are just some stupid profile which a child does not really care about." On the iReady fandom wiki, students are trying to work out what iReady Pro's leveling tiers even mean. Yes, iReady Pro's ranking system is so poorly communicated that its own users have formed a wiki to investigate it. Like a cold case from the 1970s. And iReady Pro's core lesson mechanics, of course they're untouched from the original iReady. One student wrote, "If you get 60%, you have to restart the whole lesson, which takes you 30 minutes. Across every review platform I checked, Trustpilot, Smart Customer, the App Store, TikTok, the fandom wiki, I found 0 students who praised iReady Pro as an improvement. 0. Part 2. iReady Pro is designed to ignore you. One of iReady Pro's selling points is personalized learning. And yet, the Curriculum Insight Project, a team of educators who actually looked under iReady Pro's bonnet, found the personalization is cosmetic. 2 students with identical scores and completely different weaknesses get the exact same iReady Pro lessons. When I was teaching English as a foreign language abroad, I'd constantly have students with similar test scores who actually needed completely different things. One kid understood reading and writing, but froze the second they had to speak. Another was fluent in conversation, but fell apart with written grammar. Same mark on paper, completely different students. I'd know the difference within a single lesson. You can see it, feel it, hear it within a room. iReady Pro will put both of those kids on the same pathway and call it personalized. And iReady Pro still doesn't let teachers see how individual students answered each question. It just gives you summary level data. So even with iReady Pro's shiny new dashboard, a teacher can't go through a child's specific mistakes with them. When I was teaching, sometimes I'd just be walking around the room while students were learning. I might point at something, I might say, "What's going on here?" 30 seconds, maybe even less. And yet, that tiny moment would unstick them completely, because I could see the specific thing they misunderstood and address it on the spot. iReady Pro gives students a 43-second breathing video when they're struggling. I gave my students 30 seconds of actual attention. One of those cost $750 million a year, the other one's free. Part 3. iReady Pro isn't the only one. iReady Pro would be depressing enough on its own, but iReady Pro is part of a pattern running across the entire K-12 edtech sector. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. In 2022, Quizlet locked core study features behind a $36 a year paywall, modes that have been free for over a decade. Bypass tools appeared on GitHub. TikTok tutorials for circumventing Quizlet's paywall went viral. Competitor Naut ran campaigns that literally said use this instead. Quizlet launched an AI tutor to replace the value Quizlet had destroyed, and quietly killed the AI tutor by 2025 because nobody used it. It's the iReady Pro playbook, but with flashcards. Newseller went from thousands of free articles to 4 articles rotated every 4 weeks. Kahoot cuts their free tier to 10 players per session, which is useful to a classroom teacher in the same way a chocolate teapot is useful to someone who wants to make tea. Prodigy Math drew an FTC complaint after researchers found that during 19 minutes of Prodigy gameplay, children encountered 16 membership ads and 4 maths problems. students. Non-paying Prodigy students walk on dirt, while paying members literally float on clouds. Every one of these follows the same logic as iReady Pro. The contract is with the district. The student has no purchasing power. The teacher has no veto. So the incentive structure points entirely at people who never use iReady Pro, and the people who use iReady Pro every day absorb whatever gets changed. And for iReady Pro specifically, there are 0 independent efficacy studies. Not a single one. The broader iReady platform scored a 0.1 effect size in an independent analysis, meaning little to no statistically meaningful benefit. So we have iReady Pro, a product used by millions of children, backed by $750 million, and the scientific evidence that iReady Pro works is essentially trust us, which iReady we don't. Part 4. The problem was never the cartoons. iReady Pro exists because older students were embarrassed by iReady's cartoon characters. And fair enough, that was a real problem. But iReady Pro removed every small mercy that made iReady bearable. The games, the rewards, the coins, and replaced them with a breathing exercise that induces panic, an XP system nobody understands, and a label that students associate with falling behind. And iReady Pro's diagnostic is the same diagnostic that teachers are criticized now for over a decade. iReady Pro's lessons still restarts from scratch when you fail. iReady Pro's personalization is still cosmetic. Yes, everything that made iReady a disaster is still there with iReady Pro. The disaster just has a new dashboard now. Because of course it does. Ryan Moulton is an engineer whose kids regressed after a year on iReady. He said, "I feel especially guilty about this because I believed the marketing. iReady Pro's rebrand was supposed to rescue iReady's tattered reputation. Instead, it's proving what students have been saying all along. The problem was never the cartoon characters. The problem is that iReady is built around measuring students rather than teaching them. And iReady Pro's new dashboard doesn't fix that. iReady Pro's new name doesn't fix that. The only thing that fixes that is a human being who can look a child in the eye and say, here's where you went wrong. And iReady Pro has made sure that there's even less room for that than before. If you made it to the end, type egregious edtech in the comments so I know you're a truly loyal member of the Snipe Army. You are the realest ones. Snipe, snap, out.